Hi and welcome to the Fußball channel. I'm your host Markus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by Jan Fjørtoft. Dad, it's good to be with one another again. You've had an eventful few days, hence why we're recording this on the Wednesday. Still plenty to talk about, but before we get into that, give us a little update on your beings. You've been active both on a football front, but also a musical front.
Yeah, I've been, even by my standards, been hectic days. I started on Wednesday. I went up to Bodø. That is nearly as north as you can come. Santa Claus said hello. Bodø Glimt Besiktas on Friday, then directly to London, did Arsenal against Everton. It was good to see Sean Dyche again. As we have told before, we shared table with him and his son. It was brilliant to see him again. Then
Good people.
good people. And I went up to Manchester and doing the Manchester Derby, which was dramatic in all senses. Interesting from my point of view, a professional point of view, when you get Pep Guardiola after 8 losses in 11 games, and he went further than I thought, and how to keep your head cool and how far you can push him. But to be fair to him, he is in front of the camera. He's very honest about that. Then
How
I
do
went
you,
to
sorry,
yes,
how
yeah.
it's because it's interesting because we had a good LinkedIn post about it as well. How do you approach someone like Pep Guardiola in that position they're in? Just as a little insight, because I do think it's interesting when we speak about football, we're dealing with humans and someone at the very top of the game is Guardiola in this position. How do you go by that?
Yeah, so you see the whole game. In my role, I will do a report at halftime, but in the whole game, I'm sitting thinking different angles. You don't know who you get, but I thought it was a good chance that I would get to managers, as I did. And I was then waiting for them, and it looks like Manchester United will lose that game too, but Manchester City will win a game. So my introduction then to Pep Guardiola would be, wow, this is what you need. This is your point where the season could change. Could be instrumental. Then I'm waiting downstairs. It's 1-1. I'm standing in the Sky area because they got a TV, and then the cameraman of Sky says to me, "Wow, I will settle for a draw now." He was a Manchester City fan, of course, because we're so fragile. And then it's this long ball from Martinez, and it's Diallo with this brilliant touch, and it's 2-1. And you're standing there, you have to change your whole thing. So I try to make it quite open. What are your thoughts? All that kind of things. And I was prepared for it because I found a thing in 94-95 season at Barcelona where they got a central midfielder injured and he was out. His name was Pep Guardiola. The coach was Johan Cruyff. They had some elderly players. They're getting into a stage. They had won the league, I think, also for 4 times in a row. And there was a quote from Pep Guardiola saying about Johan Cruyff, the thing is, when you are a genius, and when a genius can't find a solution, it is like murder. You can't find it. So after we spoke a bit, I kind of got that quote up, and I said to Pep, listen, this is your quote from the middle of the 90s. But I'm not a genius. I'm just from a small village and blah, 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 blah. But I kind of pushed him on you being a genius. And then I asked him, and it was honest and very, also as a press conference, it was honest. But I said to him, you're saying you are trusting your players. You're saying you're supporting your players, but who is supporting you? And then he said, well, it's a lonely job. I'm lonely. And I said, yeah, but Manchester City doesn't pay you to be lonely, do they? And then I got, as people who listen understands, then I have the Manchester City representative, which is Alex, he's a great communication guy, but he kind of do my jacket because then he has to go to the next appointment, and so that was a good one. So Amorim he's fantastic, of course, when you win, but you get a feeling from managers, Marcus. You get a feeling from human beings, and I like Ten Hag. I knew he did so well at Ajax. He had an idea of it. But you can see straight away that Amorim is a better salesman. And Marcus, we've been in a dressing room all our life. We know that you need a coach that you can sell us your idea. So that was more the funny part of it. Ahead of me was a guy from Portugal, a friend of mine from Portugal, a colleague. And of course, they were very happy. And he said something about Sir Alex Ferguson. And then I asked him, I make that interviewer a parody of him. And I said, what did you talk about? We need to translate that. And so he was, of course, in great view. And to finish that with Manchester United, I saw on social media, I think it was funny. And that's what you need as a coach. When Martinez had the ball, he is shouting, Ahmad. And he's standing on the line. Remember, it's Martinez' ball from the left. And then, 10 seconds later, it's 2-1 for Manchester United. So happy for the Manchester United fans. And I guess we have to have a special episode of what's going on at Manchester City. But 8 losses in 11, Marcus, I don't think that I've ever seen something like it. Oh, well, not only me. To go from being reigning champion 4 seasons in a row, and then where they are now, it's unbelievable. So then I went to Salzburg to finish everything. I went to Salzburg for their end of the season program at Servus TV, the channel owned by Red Bull, where I've been working Champions League, done European Championship, doing World Cup. And then, Marcus, I met Max Verstappen. I won't say I was starstruck, but I of course I needed a photo with him. I mean,
it's four-time world champion. So
like City, he should be warned. He should be warned. But yes, so I can't say that I had a long dialogue with him, but it was great to meet him. And as you know, I'm a big Formula One fan, and to you guys, the rest of the family, annoyance, I'm big Red Bull and big Max Verstappen fan. So that's my dice.
Yeah, and that's an eventful few days. Therefore, we grant this extended period to do a catch up. I mean, it's you travel a lot. It's an exciting kind of an exciting summary.
An exciting life, and you can hear now I'm a bit catch a cold. I caught the cold a bit, but I will go through. But of course, I follow the German thing as well, Marcus. That's a good thing when you travel to Austria and over Germany, you get all the magazines, and you kind of get yourself going again.
Absolutely. I mean, the benefit of us doing this on a Wednesday is that, I was thinking in terms of how we approach this episode. It's over the past weekend, but the nice thing is that as the week progresses, things happen. Things marinate in a way, and the kind of final reflections come into play. One of which being, obviously, we're in Austria. Thomas Lech, the former Bochum coach, was hired as Red Bull Salzburg coach today, following Pep Linder's departure, underperforming there. We might have to do a special on the Red Bull organization as a whole. It doesn't only stop with Red Bull Salzburg. It's obviously RB Leipzig and everything that's going on behind there, and people moving from Leipzig to Salzburg, etc. It's an interesting one, but something that hasn't been resolved since it was leaked, reported, what have you, is the fact that Florian Wirtz had apparently extended his contract with Bayer Leverkusen by a further year. His contract lasted till 2027, now reported being extended to 2028. So I start first with, I guess, why extended by a year? And then we can go into the significance of a Leverkusen being able to extend with Florian Wirtz, as it was very widely, I guess, accepted amongst many that he was going to leave surely after this season. But yeah, in whatever order we want to start with, how do you see the situation? What's your overall analysis?
As I do, one of my favorite, Rory Stewart, a quick explainer.
Yeah, needed.
Florian Wirtz, one of the most wanted players in Europe, with Musiala, the kind of sign, the symbol of German football, winning the league with Leverkusen, of course, with Alonso, and he is the big star. So Kicker, a great magazine in Germany, competing with Sport Bild, but Kicker reporting that he had extended his contract till 28. And it was quite interesting because a lot of us, I at least said apparently, or they're reporting, and a lot of said that, but there was no confirmation by Leverkusen. And as we speak, Marcus, it hasn't been a confirmation for Bayer Leverkusen. Funny enough, the first tweet, if I saw that right, the first tweet from Leverkusen after this message or this report from Kicker was about Christmas pullovers. Shaka was selling Christmas pullover with Leverkusen on. Well, the reason I do it, Marcus, is as you're saying, this contract is the 2027 that he has now. And what we know is that, or what we think we know, is there no special clause, although I think there is a gentleman's agreement, meaning that if they got a great offer for one of the greatest club in the world, and there are 3, 4, 5 of them, he can go. It's interesting to see if that clause include Bayern, because it's for Bayer Leverkusen. It's of course hardest if he goes to Bayern, because that is a competitor, and as we will speak more later, but Leverkusen now getting into form. So I think there are 2 reasons why they do this. Reason number 1 is to give him more money, because if you extend the contract, then they can say, as the best paid players at Bayern, apparently, I've learned this from Christian Falk, apparently, because the lawyers are listening to his podcast, I'm not saying they're doing that to us, they will earn around 23, 24, 25 million euro, which is a lot of money. Of course, that is bonuses, but the most is quite guaranteed. There is no player at Bayer Leverkusen apparently earning more than 10 million euros. So they are half the wage structure, half the stars. So they now use this opportunity by Florian Wirtz to kind of give him a lot of money. So he will be way ahead of the second best paid player in Leverkusen. And it's also a signal, Marcus, because if you sign a contract now till 2028, is also a signal. It's not a signal that he will stay till 2028, but it's a quite indication that there is no chance that he will leave the club coming the summer in 2025, which is the biggest wish of Bayern Munich. And there is also 2+2 in terms of Real Madrid. If Xabi Alonso, the Leverkusen coach now, will be the new coach of Real Madrid. So I think this is money, and it's a signal from Leverkusen. Listen, we are ambitious. We will be up there. We will fight for the first places.
Absolutely, a big statement for Bayer Leverkusen, and already shifting a bit from Dortmund, where that type of player would have probably left by now. So that in itself is a statement. And then we have to discuss just briefly why he does so. Yes, money, but he could get a bit more money elsewhere. I think, he's part of a big family. One of the reasons he went from Köln to Leverkusen was in order to be close to home as well. And I think it shouldn't be underestimated, the decision he's made, perhaps for his development, perhaps because he feels settled. He has a sister that plays professional as well, and being part of that environment, to see that there is no parent rush to get away from the club and saying, you know what, I can be here and kind of continue my development and be a big presence for Leverkusen, obviously. It's somewhat refreshing, I guess, within the larger football landscape that we're in.
And I think that it's the thing is, in my career, I mean, I was not on level from Florian Wirtz, of course, but in kind of demands, I think if you have an offer, you have to say yes. You have to move on. You have to, and in my position, you had to move on because you got paid out your contract. But I was fortunate as well. When I had the moves, I always took a step. So I went to Rapid Vienna, then I went to the Premier League. We went down to the Championship. I had a chance with Middlesbrough to go up in the Premier League, played in Middlesbrough. Then I had to play, went to Sheffield United, had a chance to go to Barnsley. Then I was in Barnsley. I could go to Eintracht Frankfurt. There was always a kind of a progress in my mind. And although the amounts are a bit different, there are a bit more zeros behind the numbers now, but it's still the same. I think that, as you were saying, a good word is refreshing, because you tend to go away. I mean, the World Cup in USA, Mexico, and Canada is 18 months away. 18 months away. So meaning that he can play for Leverkusen, who is competing with the best. He can be calm, and he's still a young man in 2026. And then they don't have to do that. And I think as well, one of the reasons why it was so important that Leverkusen won the league last season and Bayern didn't. Bayern went third. We have to remind us of that. Is that in Germany, it's been a rule that either you go to Real Madrid or Barcelona, you go to the biggest club in Spain, not only England, because there was not a lot of connections between England and Germany in the history of football. Now the latest years, so they go to Bayern. So Manuel Neuer, he goes to Bayern. Özil go to Real Madrid. I mean, so there's, or Arsenal first, or he was there. There are always exceptions. Madrid, yes. Werder Bremen players, Dortmund players, they all went to Bayern. But maybe, and this is just a maybe analysis of his situation, maybe he sees, for my progress now, I'm doing well, I'm playing in the Champions League, I have a Bundesliga medal around my neck. I have a great coach in Xabi Alonso. Why should I move now? I can always move later. And refreshing, yes, and it's also a signal that maybe the balance between the powers, even in Germany, has shifted a bit after Bayern being so dominant and now losing the Bundesliga trophy last season, and maybe now they also lose some of the best players in Germany. Having said that, I think it's 100% correct strategy from Bayern to try to get Florian Wirtz, because Florian Wirtz and Musiala, same as in the national team, that sounds like a frightening idea for the oppositions, but it's also a good thing about the new Bayern.
And of course, Bayern will always be in the running for the very best German players. I predict that we'll have a 2026 when the World Cup in the US is. He'll still be there, and then there will be the same discussion as we have here. And we know for certain he will leave, 2 years left of his contract, etc. So if we're here still talking on the Fußball channel about that, I reckon we will have one of those conversations. But as part of that as well, Florian Wirtz has been key to Bayer Leverkusen winning the league last season, key to part of the revival. Florian Wirtz, we have to mention, he is one of those silent leaders at Bayer Leverkusen. And we were always a bit in doubt in terms of, the second season syndrome in a way. We often attribute that to relegation teams, but in terms of replicating that success. And I think for Rolfes, for Caro, for Alonso, they want to make sure that they are not a one-hit wonder. And started the season a bit tricky. Obviously, we had the second match day. They lost at home. Their unbeaten streak was ended. But their core remained. They had a Xhaka, they had a Ta, they had a Boniface, they had all the apparent leaders in there, including Wirtz, who I deem a quiet leader, one who has the most sprints in the Bundesliga, a person that ran over 12 kilometers last game, has that presence. They're different profiles, as we know. But Bayer Leverkusen now, following a bit of a bumpy sort of start to the season, couldn't really find the rhythm, suddenly drew against Holstein Kiel and Bochum and started to lose 2-goal leads. Now find themselves 7 straight wins in all competitions. Includes wins against Inter Milan, includes wins against Bayern away. Are Bayer Leverkusen back in a way?
Well, they are back in terms of the consistency, and that is when teams start winning 3, 4, 5 games in a row. That is on points, by the way. And they had a couple of games which there was turned around from last year where they lost points or lost games at the end of the games. Remember last season they were winning all the time, and now they're playing Freiburg, I think, before Christmas, and that could be a fantastic run for them. Friday with Bayern Leipzig. Maybe they hope that Marco Rose can make a miracle there, and then they're even closer. I think we will try to get a special episode where we get some people to kind of summarize the Hinrunde, the first round of the half of the season before they go into Christmas, Marcus. But I think that if you see realistic now, you should not expect Eintracht Frankfurt to be up there. They've been a bit over their weight class, but they're still up there. Dortmund struggling, Leipzig is struggling, although they have come back a bit now. Marco Rose was apparently close to being sacked there because they couldn't win football games, which is normal. So I think we have to put the trust in Leverkusen. I think the safe money though would be put on Bayern, but it's great to see Leverkusen coming there because I think Leverkusen play at home against Bayern because they played in the cup.
Yes. Yep.
Two away games they've had, haven't they, against Bayern this season? And with Bayern being a bit struggling against the better teams, they will hope that will come on. But Leverkusen, great to have them back, and I think they could. They're up for a fight, although Bayern are there. But it's also so interesting. I guess we'll be talking about Bayern now, but it's also interesting that Bayern looks better, but they're still struggling a bit in terms of when you compare them with other seasons.
It's interesting. We mentioned this in the previous episode in terms of the points gathered versus Tuchel from last season. And, in terms of the points that Tuchel gathered compared to the season before in which they won it in that last minute against Köln, they improved points-wise. And then it was a matter of, for Bayern, it's not only about winning, but the manner in which you do win. Bundesliga being the minimum, etc. And then in comes Kompany, who we both were a bit skeptical too, who seemingly have been proving us wrong in a way in terms of the way they played, but we had question marks related to their defending in terms of their high line. Then they got themselves, well, they were hit in the face basically against Barcelona away. And it's interesting because if we look at it before and after from that Barcelona game, they conceded four. It was an awfully high line. They proved themselves dominant against the smaller teams just because they suffocated their opponents. But against better opponents, it didn't prove as effective. So Kompany shifted. They had 6 clean sheets in a row, was it? Mokano got their praises, deservedly so. But Kompany had to adjust. You have to give up something. And in doing so, in being very high pressing, expansive, whatnot, you were very dangerous going forward, but a lot more vulnerable defensively. But in terms of adapting to that and then adapting defensively, you become a bit less exciting offensively. This is a simple kind of breakdown of it. The thing is, we've discussed that Kompany perhaps proved a bit too idealistic, young, a bit naive at times, especially the Burnley. And we saw that with Russell Martin, now with Southampton, who stuck to his guns regardless. And we've discussed, do the best coaches adapt? And I think we both agree they do. And Kompany, to his credit, he did adapt in a way after that Barcelona game and how he had to go by winning games against the bigger teams, which still remains a question mark. But there's something that's gone there from the offense line. And now the buzz, the excitement that is around Kompany and the playing style and all that surrounds it has lessened a bit. And it's just interesting to see the shifts in optimism, energy towards it, and how Kompany is still in a phase of his management career where he's trying to adjust and get right each side of the pendulum. A very long-winded question, but how do you see it in terms of how Kompany, Bayern approach it and where they're going?
I think the analysis you do is spot on, but I think we have to. I want to give credit to Kompany because you see that Kompany, he doesn't come there as an Englishman in New York. He's coming there as a Belgian guy that has played for Hamburger Sportverein, who was a leader at Manchester City. You can see that because it's not easy to be a coach of Bayern Munich. And that is an understatement of the episode because there is so many you have to be influenced by. Now, the last headline I saw in Bild Zeitung on my way home, it was important to say that Kompany was wanted by Uli Hoeneß, and Max Eberl was visiting him in his house. Remember all the candidates they had. They didn't have a coach. We don't have to repeat all the candidates, but they were like 5th or 6th candidate. And Uli Hoeneß had told Max Eberl, you don't leave his house till he signed. And he went there, and Kompany said, I have to talk to my wife. And Max Eberl put himself comfortable on his sofa and said, I wait. And they got their man. But I think that he's tackled that well. But in Bayern, you always one result away from a crisis. All these FC Hollywood kind of thing. But still, I give credit to Kompany that he's kind of steadied the ship after Tuchel being another kind of manager, kind of person, kind of leadership. Not good or bad. It's just they're different. And I think that Bayern needed that. But that thing that he's not winning against the best teams, that will stay there till he does. Champions League will be interesting now to see how far that is. That is the standard. And Uli Hoeneß said, well, I can only promise you'll win the league. And I don't think that is very helpful. But that is Bayern. You have to win the league. And if you're third one year a season, at least you have to win the next season. So I think he's done well, Marcus. But again, it just shows you how dependent he is. I mean, the Mainz game now, losing 2-1 in Mainz, 2 goals from Lee. You can explain more about him. I think it was 2 assists from Sieb, the Mainz player. And the bad thing, quote, for Bayern is that it was deserved. They created one chance. Leroy Sané scored the winner, and then I think Olise had a post, but that was it. And they played
only one shot on target for Bayern.
Exactly, and they played without Harry Kane. We need to say he's been injured. It seems that he will be back now for Friday when they play Leipzig at home. I think that is very important, and it is for Bayern, like for Frankfurt, for example, who played Mainz, the Bayern Bezwinger, the Bayern beater team. Oh, that was good English. They play them, and it's something about the mood you go into this Rückrunde, this holiday. You need to have a good mood. So if Bayern now should end up losing against Leipzig or play a draw, Leverkusen win at home, they're closer, then they will be asked, how have they progressed? Have they progressed? They will take your stats with Tuchel, and they will do all that. Slowly, that comes anyway. So it's very important for them to end this half of the season with a win against Leipzig.
Yeah, and to your point, Bayern is always one game away from a crisis, and that's very much the mood. I mean, again, you can go back and say if Kompany had won that, he would have equaled the record in terms of the unbeaten start to a season. I mean, obviously, Guardiola has his, which is 28, which is totally different. But then you're suddenly talking, oh, he's hitting records and whatnot. Kompany's still young. I still think it's early on in the project as well. We're going to see.
You start with this project as well. There is no. I understand. I understand what you're saying. But as the coaches who said
absolutely, and we discussed that short term
project, short term, and win long term.
Versus now, we're long term, absolutely. And Bayern can't afford that. So talking about project, I understand, but
project is by Bayern one game. But exactly. I understand now. But I get your point. I'm just using that as a phrase because sometimes to show there is no Bayern coach that ever had a long-term trust that he would stay anyway.
And Nagelsmann, I mean, even him, if you hire someone young and you think, okay, that's
Ancelotti was there. I was in Paris the day before he got fired. He looks like the saddest man on earth, and that was his football. And then he goes to Real Madrid and winning everything again. Mm-hmm. So, but I see your point, but I think when I was very skeptical to Kompany, will he handle the pressure? Will he handle the culture? Will he understand the DNA? But to be fair to him, he has. And there is a couple of points now that he needs to kind of fill in as well, tick some boxes. But in general, I will say that with 1 being the best and 6 being the worst, using the Bild-Zeitung assessment of players, I will say that he's had a. I will say we have 3. Okay. I think he steadied the ship. I would say. But it's interesting with Bayern. Just to finish with Bayern, the most interesting thing will be what happened to Manuel Neuer. What is happening to Thomas Müller? Will they both?
Leroy Sané.
Yeah, Leroy Sané. Musiala, when will he extend his contract? All these kind of things can be interesting because now I saw this week they went to the fan clubs. They have so many fan clubs around Germany. And to be credit to Bayern, then they send the players, they send the coaches to talk to these fan clubs, which they are quite open. And then Manuel Neuer say, I think that Müller should get another year. So we always talk about contracts now. And this will not be the first time last time we will talk about that.
Absolutely not. I tried to make a bridge here, but it's more so the fact that in Kompany's head, they will get to him in terms of winning against the big teams and whatnot. But the club that become a victim almost of what you discuss of them and manifest onto them is Dortmund, because we just say, oh, it's classic Dortmund being second, to bottle it, to not being able to deliver when it matters most. And for the longest time that Dortmund and their leadership have refused the claim that they have a mentality problem. And now just recently, Emre Can came out and he said, we have a mentality problem. Basically, simplify, but that's what he said. We have a mentality problem. And obviously this becomes even more pressing of a conversation because Borussia Dortmund are 8th in the Bundesliga. And it's tight. It's tight from 5th to 11th. But Dortmund, having finished 5th last season, that was unacceptable, finishing 5th. And then you had a Champions League final that you were participating in. But now we have Borussia Dortmund. They conceded late against Hoffenheim. To be fair to them, they have had a good record. At home. We discussed Dortmund, endlessly. We can do specials on that. But what I want to discuss with Dortmund, as we kind of sift through some of our talking points, is the fact that, and we have a fair few American listeners, and that's why I wanted to bring in Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna had played 43 minutes of Bundesliga football ahead of this game, scored first goal in 528 days, I believe. you've discussed this before in ESPN and Bundesliga and about his situation there, but Gio Reyna back for Dortmund, quite the comeback even still for a young kid.
Well, first of all, hello to all the American viewers. I speak to them a lot also through ESPN that I'm doing tomorrow again with maybe grumpy Craig Burley or Al going into the moon in his energy, or LaBeouf. We just call him the world champion, which he is. But so hello to you, and so they will know. So I can't lie on this one because coincidentally we discussed Gio Reyna at the last time I was on. And I don't think that he has a long-term future. That was my words because he's been gone. He's one of the players, and I did that when I'm still your dad, but I was a dad for you when you played football. The worst thing that can happen is when you got injured because that's just set you back. I mean, it's enough trouble to get yourself on the level that you want, that you need to be in this profession. But he's been so unlucky with injuries. Then you had a thing that happened at the World Cup with a national coach and a family clash. So it hasn't been easy for him, and it's just great to see him coming back. And I just hope that this could be a start for him, a restart. We hope that will happen in Nottingham Forest when he was there. It didn't happen for him at Forest. Now he's back at Dortmund, which is a good place to be because there is a place where in history been doing a lot of young players. He's not that young anymore either. He has to take the next step now. So it's crunching time for Gio Reyna now. We were saying in 18 months is the World Cup. He wants to be one of the stars there, of course. So that was, I'm not saying that was the last dance saloon, but a very important game for him.
Absolutely. I mean, the dust has settled from the previous games, but it's very tight from 5th to 11th. It separates 3 points, and then you got Leipzig there. I mean, Dortmund are 5 points from 4th place. While we get to the end here, anything regarding Eintracht that you would like to address in terms of where they are at? They lost to RB Leipzig now, and find themselves in third, joint with RB Leipzig.
Yeah, it's a good place to end, Marcus, because it's a bit like Bayern. It's all about what's the atmosphere you want to take into the Rückrunde, so which starts in January. So they have 3 losses now, I think, in a row, and then a draw at home against Augsburg, if I'm not 100% wrong. And that kind of Eintracht, it's an interesting, I've said this before, we think this is just a finance metropole, all the banks are there, they call it Manhattan because for the River Main, who is going through the city, but it's a very passionate football city. And a week ago I had to do something in Bildsat, and I said to people, calm down, we've done so well, we're up there, we would bite that position straight away. So I read an interview with Dino Topmüller in the magazine when I was traveling now. He kind of give you the sense that he wants to calm things down, and I agree on that. But we all know remember last year they were 6th, and they qualified for Europe again, which is very important for Eintracht Frankfurt. But people were not happy with the way they played, and now they're third in the league, and people are not happy how they play. So that is a part of being in Frankfurt, being in a city, and being at a club that had a very proud history, but this history makes them also vulnerable in situations like this. They lost against Leipzig now. They also lost against Leipzig in the cup. They lost 3-0 there. This was another game. They were better now, but of course it's very, very important for them to beat Mainz, not only for the Rückrunde starting in January, but also because it's the neighbor. We have to beat Mainz. And Mainz is very important to beat. So, and you know how football is like, Marcus. That is about feelings. That is about passion. That is about identity. And then things change around straight away. Mamouche makes 2, and Ekitike scores 1, and you win 3-0 against Mainz, and then you've had a fantastic first half of the season, one of the best in their history. That's how thin it is between the mood in a football city like Frankfurt. But I wish Dino Topmüller all the best, and I hope that they will beat Mainz, who they've had enough this week. They had a win against Bayern. That's enough.
No, fair enough. And with that, we conclude our Bundesliga roundup, so to speak, our talking points. Let us know what you think in the comments below regarding whatever team you are interested in terms of Wirtz, in terms of Bayern, and how you see it. We have a lot of Bayern fans obviously engaged as well. And then, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate that as we build this community. But for now, Dad, thanks a lot, and auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.